You straight up cuckooed that dude, bro. Oh my God.
You've got all your Charger gear on because
feeling fresh as hell.
Well, you guys better enjoy it.
The fans loved it.
You have to love what you're seeing on tape if you're a Chargers fan, especially for the future with Justin Herbert.
On the move and throws and touchdown.
Do this together. Players, coaches, staff, fans, together we can create something truly special.
Stay tuned for some good content.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Charger Chat. I'm your jackass Wolldog who didn't hit record earlier, sitting with my buddy Kyle, the coach Duggan.
You know, sometimes you just need to take two. We all need second chances. So we've already run through this half of the show once, but here we are again.
Well, Jesus, I feel like the biggest sucker here, folks. I mean, there's a whole... I mean, I guess it was 5 minutes, but still, there was an impassioned 5 minutes.
We had some gold in there that you guys will never know.
You'll never know it. I'll try to bring it back, though. But, hey, it's me and Kyle this week, folks. Kev, unfortunately, can't be with us. He is dealing with food poisoning. Yes, we'll send a smooch his way. I don't know if he had a bad butterbeer or if somebody cast a spell on him or what the issue
backfired.
is.
Something happened out in Florida in Universal Studios.
So he is down for the count. We're sending him T's and P's. Obviously, we wish he could be here, but we're going to pull through. We're going to keep it going and see what there is to talk about. Obviously, folks, tons to talk about here. And as always, for the Friday episode, we've got a Craig experience and a Bolt Beat lined up. But let's start this off at the top. Try to bring the same passion that I had 5 minutes ago, but
you got this.
So it dropped out that the Pro Bowl list came out. And
not happy. Not okay.
We're not happy. Yeah.
Not happy. Just go ahead and read through it before I'll hold my comments until after.
All right, here we go. First of all, Derwin James, Khalil Mack in Pro Bowl. Love it. Absolutely deserve it.
Makes sense.
And then, but the that's where it ends. And that's where the fury starts because you've got running back Austin Eckler, first alternate, center Corey Linsley, first alternate, quarterback Justin Herbert, second alternate, long snapper Josh Harris, second alternate, punter J.K. Scott, fourth alternate, and punt returner, kick returner DeAndre Carter, fifth alternate. What are they smoking?
Dude, I don't know. Austin Eckler's too good to not be in the Pro Bowl. Like, it's
they're like, he's too good. He's going to make everybody else look bad. Why would we want to win?
It's just so irritating. Why don't you go ahead and tell us? We found who is actually on the AFC roster for running back. Who's on there?
Because that is the most egregious one, folks. It's running back Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
The guy has made such an impact. He is absolutely talented in multiple ways. And yet we see running backs Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and Derrick Henry in the Pro Bowl.
Blah, blah, blah. Same guys every year. It's just, it's like they are great running backs. Like they run the ball well, but they're not as impactful and all around as Austin Eckler is. And that's just where it's a shame because wasn't there a stat? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Maybe you can. He's like, he had more receiving touchdowns than Justin Jefferson and more rushing touchdowns and stuff. Like it was this crazy stat where he was like a better receiver than a top 5 receiver, a better had more rush yards than somebody. It was like this crazy all around stat of the pure athlete that is Austin Eckler.
I can picture that tweet. I can't recall specifically who it was that tweeted it out, but yeah, it's the guy. Look, if you're just looking at rush attempts versus rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, then I would understand why he's not in there. Right. But if that's like saying, I'm trying to think of like another comparison. That's like saying, Derwin James doesn't get in because he doesn't have that many interceptions,
right?
Or he doesn't have that many tackles, or he doesn't have that many sacks.
Just one.
And you're like, but wait a minute. Like
there.
if you're just looking at one element, then I get it. But the impact the player has, and I guess it falls on the fan base, which I truly don't get either. Chargers put out a killer video for Austin Eckler talking about all the reasons why he should be in the Pro Bowl, and he doesn't. He gets as an alternate. So God willing, It's not even a concern because we're going to be in Arizona. But
yeah, it's not going to matter because none of our guys are playing because we're going to the Super Bowl. But it's just like they need a new category because there's quarterback, running back, wide receiver. There's no other category that you can get voted to in the Pro Bowl. There needs to be like an athlete. Maybe you just take one a year, or you take two and you drop out. Just add more players. Who cares how many people?
I don't know why they wouldn't advertise total yards or total touchdowns. Why would you just say the rushing yards or the rushing touchdowns?
That's fine. The running backs can be Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and Derrick Henry. The touchdown score, like the scorer, get a category that's just guy that scores touchdouts,
top
and
scorer.
that's Austin Eckler.
Yeah. It's absolutely infuriating and baffling on multiple accounts, but it's out of our control. And again, God willing, we're in Arizona when it all goes down. All right, folks, looking at the upcoming opponent this week, we are looking at the Indianapolis Colts, the team that just gave up the biggest, what was it? The
biggest comeback in NFL history. Yeah. They were down. They were up 33-0. And Adam texts our group chat. He's like, guys, do you see what the Colts are doing to the Vikings
because it was
right now?
terrifying. You're like, Jesus, is this the Colts? This is the same team we're going to play?
Yeah, but it was like the Vikings they hadn't imploded in that first half. They had like a pick six. They had a blocked kick for a touchdown. They just could not do anything in that whole first half.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden just give everything up in the second half. Like just gone.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. Like if you look at Kirk Cousins' stats on that game, the Colts have throughout the year have had an okay defense. They've been doing okay against the pass. They gave up 460 yards and 4 touchdowns to Kirk Cousins. And the majority of that coming in the second half.
Right.
So it's like they were absolutely shredded in that second half. The vulnerability is there. You just got to get up there and start slinging the rock. Thank God we have Justin Herbert and we can do it better than anyone in the NFL.
That's right.
Because if you can't stop Kirk Cousins, you like that? If you can't stop that guy, you're going to have trouble with Justin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that we have to look forward to. So, giving up that big of a comeback is insane, enough to set the record. And then throw in a couple of other interesting tidbits. It was tweeted out from Ian Rappaport back on Wednesday that the Colts are starting Nick Foles at quarterback, benching Matt Ryan.
Oh, God, I hate playing backup quarterbacks. I just hate it. It's like, it's scary.
It's scary. And believe me, I respect Nick Foles. I think Nick Foles is an underrated quarterback. I think he's done a lot of great things.
He's the MVP of the Super Bowl like 5 years ago.
MVP of the freaking Super Bowl. Like, come on. Like, you don't just get that from just showing up. Like, obviously, the guy's got some talent. But then Joel Erickson tweeted out, Nick Foles acknowledged that he hasn't taken any snaps with the first team offense at all, and that he's been on scout team, so he hasn't taken many snaps in the Colts offense since training camp. So, I mean, again, the guy's a veteran. Obviously, it's not his first rodeo. He knows how to play the game, but hasn't taken any snaps with the first team.
That playbook gets tiny. Your options of what to pick gets real small with the guy that hasn't run anything all year, has no familiarity with the wide receivers. Because this is Matt Ryan's second time being benched. The first time they put in Sam Ehlinger, which didn't go to plan either. So now they're just an absolute, and I guess that was under the previous coaching regime. Now Jeff Saturday is there, running the show, and it's like, all right, let's go with the guy that's been here in the NFL for a long time, has won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Like, I know he's not a great quarterback, but there's an element of it that's like, I don't like this. I like Matt slow, sit in the pocket, beat up Ryan that's just going to sit there and throw picks. Mm-hmm. Nick Foles, for some reason, that guy it's worrisome. He's won a Super Bowl. Like I understand he didn't play the whole season. Carson Wentz took that team to the playoffs, and then he just kind of was handed it on the silver platter. But the guy can have a 3-game stretch, unlike anybody, like a all-time 3-game stretch. Who's to say he can't bust that out against the Chargers?
Absolutely.
I think it lines up for us to have a really fun, like, defensive night. It should, especially the way we've been playing the last 2 weeks. And with Derwin James maybe coming back this week. But at the same time, definitely scares me a little bit.
It is. It's a wrinkle that we weren't expecting to see, and now that we've seen it, it's like, like it's almost like
am I excited?
I don't know how to feel. Yeah. But something to keep an eye on, especially if you start seeing like a lot of mistakes happening with the Colts, like any miscommunications and stuff like that. You can chalk that up to Nick Foles not having taken any snaps with the first team offense at all. And then this also came out. ESPN tweeted out the Colts placed Jonathan Taylor on IR, officially ending his season. Taylor feared to have a high ankle sprain, a team source told Adam Schefter. So their top running back, the guy who was neck and neck with Austin Eckler last year as far as touchdowns is concerned, is now benched for the rest of the season. And I can't remember, are the Colts, are they mathematically eliminated from playoffs?
I'm not sure if they're fully eliminated as of right now. They're 4-9 in a really bad AFC South. So I don't think there's any way of them getting to the wild card, but I think because their division sucks so bad, I think a loss on Monday puts them out. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be running with Zach Moss and Deion Jackson as their running backs this week.
Right.
They're just, man, they are hurting. That is a tough franchise right now. You give up the greatest comeback of all time in the NFL history. You bench your starting quarterback. You lose your all-star, all-pro running back, and you're going to face primetime game against a team, the Chargers, that's hot right now. 2 games in a row where our defense has played lights out. You know that Herbert's pissed about his performance last Sunday and wants to come and he's going to go primetime Herbo again and absolutely go off in Monday night. So it's all fitting together too well for us right now, which it starts to my Charger senses tingles start as a little bit as a fan. Because like I love being shamelessly positive, but when everything's going our way, it's like,
it's almost too good to be true. You're just like, something is waiting around the corner that's going to kick me in the nuts.
Yeah.
Oh God, here it comes.
Just bear down, bite down.
Yeah, it really does. It has the making to be either just a blowout game for the Chargers, like just to come in and just smack the heck out of them, or for there to be some kind of a surprise, like, oh God, like who saw this coming, like mistake or something. But I don't see it going that way. Not with the way the Chargers have been playing lately.
I just looked at their schedule and they have 4 wins this year. Guess who 3 of them are against? All AFC West. They beat our whole division so far.
Oh, really?
They beat the Chiefs, the Broncos.
I remember them beating the Chiefs, yeah.
And the Raiders. They've beaten all. That's 3 of their 4 wins is our division.
Wow.
We got to put an end to this.
Yeah, we got to stop that right now. Who was the other team that they beat?
They beat the
Broncos,
Jags.
And they beat the Jags. Okay. Yeah, got blown out by the Jags week 2, but then came back and won it a few weeks later.
But the last 2 weeks have been tough, man. Like 2 weeks ago, they got beat 54-19 against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then they took that heartbreaking 33-point deficit, advantage, and just blew it in the second half against the Vikings.
Wow.
It's a tough couple weeks.
And we'll see what happens on Monday Night Football for the Chargers. This is because they haven't had a Monday Night Football game, right? This is their Monday night game.
We had one. We played the Broncos.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, we beat the Broncos in
second
overtime.
Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
Chargers seem to be favored minus 4.5. That's
4.5 points. Yeah.
That is God, we got to get this win.
Come on.
I mean, the other 2 games, I mean, it's interesting when you think about it. Like the other 2 games, you're talking about 2 teams with winning records. You're like, we got to win these games if we want to even have a shot.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, well, we got to win this game if we want to feel like any sort of confidence going into the playoffs. So,
we got it.
We'll see what happens.
We're going to take care of business. It's going to be a fun
game. To see the support that we're going to have, looking over at the injury report here, the big news, obviously, is Derwin James. He's there. He's practicing. That was tweeted by Eric Smith in some capacity for the Chargers. But still, no word about Joey Bosa. So just be prepared for that.
Hold your horses.
Just hold on to them. Hold your Colts.
It's going to be a Christmas present. It's going to give us, on Christmas Eve, you open up one gift, or some people do that.
Joey's
just waiting to be our Christmas Eve gift. He's going to announce on Saturday, popped off the IR, ready to rock and roll, getting on the plane. We see him in all the Chargers social media with him like getting on the plane and getting out of the locker room.
Yeah.
Please, Joey, please.
Come on, Joey.
Do it for it.
We've been good this year. Come on.
So
good. But looking at the rest of the injury report, the one player that's on, again, kind of a short list this week that didn't practice is Kaman Hall, which we knew. We heard about his hamstring injury and that he's going to be out weeks, not days. So understandable for him not to be practicing, but everybody else either got limited or full practice. And Bryce Callahan, limited practice. Derwin James, limited practice. Sebastian Joseph Day, limited practice. And then Trey Pipkins, Chris Rumpf, and Jamari Salyer, all full practices.
Come on. This is one of the best injury reports that we've ever had.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I get that these can be trapped. We've got some potential trap games coming up here, but this team is ready to play. Like,
the only guy that didn't practice is a guy that wasn't even on our active roster a couple weeks ago. You know, like,
exactly. Yeah.
Injury report is looking nice, so it's nothing but confidence here at the Charger Chat for what's going down on Monday.
That's right. And if you want nothing but laughs, you can come on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/ChargerChat. Check out all the funny videos we've got over there, all the yucks, and be prepared for all the fun stuff that we've got planned for the future. And if you're not interested in going to patreon.com/ChargerChat, you can just go on over to ChargerChat.com. Check out all the cool stuff we've got over there, t-shirts, hoodies, and stickers. You can chat it up with other Charger Chatteteers in the member section and ask questions and ask Bull Fam. So go check out ChargerChat.com. All right. Well, it is time to go on to the next segment. You know him? Dadgummit, you better love him. It's the Craig Experience.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come on in, man. Kick your feet up.
Oh.
Craig Experience.
Hello there.
Make yourself at home. Got some stuff to talk about, right? Moving on.
Thank you all. You're far too kind. I appreciate you guys for joining me on this newest installment. I'm your guy, Craig in Texas. And again, welcome to the newest edition of the Craig Experience. Let's rock. Yo, I'm just going to come out and say it. We as Chargers fans deserve to feel good right now. It's more than just the 8-6 record. It's more than just sitting in prime position to watch our team make a run into the playoffs. It's everything we've had to put up with this year. Aside from all the offseason hype, we understand why that existed. You could argue the team had one of the most talented rosters, when healthy, of course, of any squad in the NFL. We dealt with the injuries, the weird coaching decisions, whether that be from our head coach, offensive coordinator, even the personnel decisions. It's been wonky, to say the least. Watch this team lose games we feel like they should have won, which is not something that's completely out of the norm for the Chargers. If you've been a fan of this team for any real length of time, you know that that's kind of a thing. We've weathered all of those storms and have gotten to a point now where, again, been here before, the Chargers handle their business for the remainder of the season. You're looking at a really good record. As a matter of fact, I think my preseason prediction for the team was 11-6, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a very real chance that could happen. Now, no way did I expect that it would happen the way that it has, but I guess the results are the results, so you can't argue with them. They still have to finish up, so let me not talk in absolutes because Chargers got to handle their business. But man, I tell you what, sorry, lips a little dry. Pardon. It feels dope. We shouldn't all just take a collective sigh of relief at this point, but just based off what you've seen in the last few weeks, let's be honest, you got to feel a little bit more confident. The defense has stepped up against two teams above 500, one that had a very explosive offense that they essentially shut completely down. And then there was the Titans, who were, of course, a very banged up team, but end of the day, Chargers still got it done. It's super encouraging to me because now we've seen some changes that we didn't necessarily see earlier in the season, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, where game planning seems to be tailored directly to the opponent. Now, who would have thought that that was a great way to manage a football team and potentially could lead to some success? Novel concept. But man, above all else, we have to be really, really proud of the fact that our guy, number 10, Mr. J. Herbo, has helped to get us, really carry us to this point. Now, has he had the best year statistically? Well, you can look at his TD to interception ratio, which is still very good, but as far as the number of touchdowns he's thrown, it's a little on the lower side if we look at where he was at this point last year, but you can understand it. I mean, when you're without the majority of your offensive weapons for the better part of an entire season and only recently getting them back within like the last 4 to 5 games, then it's understandable. And who's to say he won't go nuclear in these last 3 and put up some really gaudy stats to finish the season off? I mean, he's still second in the league in passing, having been down all these weapons. You know that without a quarterback, the pedigree of the one that we have, team probably isn't in the position that it's in right now. I'm not going to go off on Joe Lombardi. Y'all all know how I feel about him. And you guys watch the games too, so you understand that 10 still isn't being utilized to his best abilities. Hopefully that changes here at the end stretch of the year. And if it doesn't, I think things will probably be different going into next year. Hopefully. Because there definitely will need to be some change there. But again, positivity only. Just speaking to what I enjoyed the most about last week's game. I mean, it didn't continue throughout, but early on, I really enjoyed the balance of it. The run game was a pivotal part of that opening drive. We've seen it now. The opening drives look vastly different than those that kind of encompass the remainder of the games. But if we could just find a way to utilize those tactics throughout the game, hell, just for like 2.5 quarters as opposed to just 1, and not put 10 in a position where he has to be a miracle worker at the end of a game to save it, I'd be happy with that. Man, I just want to see a consistent running game. Keep banging the table for it, and we may not get it. It just may not be the way, but it can work, especially if you don't give up on it. And they did utilize some more power schemes last week, which is really, really awesome to see. It's not something that they've leaned on very much since the Browns game, which feels like forever ago. Wasn't that like week 5? Which also would have been the last time we scored a touchdown in the third quarter. I could be getting my weeks mixed up, but still, I know that the power run game was more so a part of the Browns game plan and hasn't really been such since. So to see it pop up last week was encouraging. Moving on into this Colts game. This is one of those joints that I feel like could be a trap game. You got Nick Foles, who was on the practice squad behind Sam Ehlinger and Matt Ryan. Poor Matt Ryan. A part of another all-time collapse. The biggest comeback in NFL history. You had your Falcons 28-3 game, and now 33-0. Dude can't catch a break. I think I came up with the nickname for Matty Ice. No longer Matty Ice. Now he's Com Denom, as in the common denominator. Each time these type of situations has taken place, he's been the QB, and I can't find any other ties. So you're it, Matt. Sorry, man. Hate it had to be you. Good guy, though. Anyway, not our problem. Rolling into this game, we get to see a familiar face. Mr. Cover 3 himself, Gus Bradley. I'm really, really curious to see the offensive game plan here. Because technically, what the Cover 3 does should somewhat play into what Joe Lombardi likes to do with some of his intermediate concepts, the stick routes, things of that nature, it could be effective. Just depends on how shallow of a cover 3 or whatever adjustments wait a minute. Did I just say adjustments in Gus Bradley? Never mind. It'll be fine. I would just love to see the running game get going here because you know what Gus likes to do. It's bend, don't break. And so we'll be looking at situations where we're asking Justin to kind of matriculate the ball down the field a little bit. A lot of short game stuff, quick stuff, more intermediate routes, just more of the same. But in this type of game, it makes sense. Still really want to see the running game be a huge part of things, though. I don't want to get ahead of myself because we know how that normally comes back to bite us in the butt, but I feel good about this week as well. There's no reason why the Chargers shouldn't win this game. And you're looking at a Colts team that is now without its number one offensive threat in Jonathan Taylor, and the ball just keeps seeming to fall in the Chargers' court here in these last few weeks with teams having key injuries. And now, as opposed to the Chargers suffering from injuries of their own to key players on their team, you're finding opponents that are dealing with it. And not sorry. I don't feel bad for you guys at all. We've been dealing with this crap all year long. It's your turn. So apparently, we dealt with all of ours at the front end. Seemed like game after game, we were losing a huge part of either the offense or defense. And now seems like, again, it's our turn to reap the rewards and other teams to deal with the consequences. I am very confident in the Chargers pulling off this game. And like I said before, and yes, Kev, I am on the train with you when we're talking about being superstitious now. This is going to be my third week not giving a score prediction. And the last 2 we've won. So I'm not going to do it this time either. I'm not going to fix what ain't broken. So just continue to roll with it until something changes. And maybe we'll ride this thing all the way to a Lombardi. Who knows? We'll see. But you guys, that is how I feel about this week. And moving forward, I like our prospects. And be happy. There's a lot to feel good about with this team right now. The direction is going in. The changes that have been made. It seems like the trajectory is a good one. Just staying even keel, not getting too far ahead of myself. But by the same token, I'm looking forward to some good things here, as should you. So, until the next one, you know who it's been, Mr. Volgang, or Do Not Bang, a.k.a. TOP_FLYT3 over on Twitter. And, till the next time, y'all, take it easy, stay bolted up, stay encouraged, and let's ride this thing out into the playoffs, man. One game at a time, though, as I keep saying. One game at a time. It'd be nice if we can get a 2-score win this week, too. But I digress. Until the next one. Okay. Love you. Bye.
Well, there you go, folks. Another kick-ass Craig experience. Craig, thank you so much for giving us another awesome experience. Love hearing your takes, man. I mean,
especially fun after wins.
Especially fun after wins, man. Like, that is just, it's just fun. Yeah. It's just fun.
Buckle up for another one next week, Craig.
There you go. Yeah, get it locked and loaded, buddy. All right, well, let's move it on to the next segment. It is Bolt Beat with our old pal, Jason Reed.
Ba-dum-bum.
Welcome back to another edition of The Bolt Beat. As always, I'm your host, acting editor over at boltbeat.com, Jason Reed. You can go check us out at boltbeat.com, over on Twitter at BB_Chargers, or you can follow my personal Twitter at Eat Your Reedies, like Eat Your Wheaties, but Reedies because of my last name. Usually during these monologues, I have something to kind of touch on that I was thinking about during the week that I was letting fester, something along those lines, but I'm not sure if there's really much to touch on that the Charger Chat guys didn't already touch on, that most of Chargers Twitter, other podcasts have touched on. The Chargers are in a great spot right now. They're 8-6. They're the 6th seed in the AFC. There's potential for them to even jump to the 5th seed with everything going on with Baltimore. They have the easiest remaining schedule in the league. They got the Colts. They got the Rams. They got the Broncos. This is a complete 180 from 2 weeks ago when the Chargers lost to the Raiders and they were 6-6. And we were looking at this Miami and Tennessee game. And I think I said on this podcast, on this segment, that If they can go 1-1, they would be in good shape. If they can go 2-0, they'd be in excellent shape. They went 2-0. Almost everything they needed to happen happened. And suddenly they're in a great spot where they have an 80% chance to make the playoffs. They can clinch this week. Now, when this podcast goes up, we'll know whether or not, because the Jets have to lose or tie on Thursday Night Football. I'm recording this before the game. But even if they don't clinch this week, a win gives them a 97% chance of making the playoffs per the New York Times. So they're in a great, great spot. And I just think the only takeaway you can have is, yes, there were some offensive flaws against the Titans and it didn't look great. Some bad play and calling, I agree. But there was also 2 kind of fluky interceptions, one of which being an amazing reception we see once a decade, interception, and the other being a rare Justin Herbert mistake where he threw it late over the middle and it was a miscommunication with Mike Williams, where he was sitting in the zone and whatnot. Those things happen. Yeah, this team's not perfect, but expecting any team to be perfect is flawed anyways because every team's flawed. But the only takeaway you can have after all of this is Brandon Staley's probably a pretty good head coach, or at least pretty decent, or at the very least not fireable. And I think it's just a reminder, again, I'm not really saying anything new here. I just wanted to take the time to touch on it, that we probably shouldn't call for a head coach's job 10 weeks into the season when the team is 5-5, 6-4, whatever the Chargers were through 10 weeks. Especially when he was 1 game from making the playoffs last year, 1 win at the end of the season. Everything that's gone on this season with injuries and everything else. I know people want to say injuries aren't an excuse when they want to blame the head coach, but if you liked the head coach, you'd be blaming the injuries. Like, it's funny how that works. But this has been the most injured team in the league. Justin Herbert didn't get his 3 receivers for 12 weeks together. He fractured rib cartilage, and I think he was a lot more hurt than he was leading on. Because you watch some of those, that week 3, week 4, week 5 Herbert, like, he wasn't the same. All the injuries on both sides of the ball, everything going on, a pretty tough schedule, all things considered, leading up to now. And yet the Chargers hung around. Yeah, they didn't really have a definitive win before these last 2 weeks. And yeah, I've argued before that you could have changed 3 or 4 things on each game, not each 3 or 4 things from each game, but you could change one thing from 3 or 4 games and the Chargers could have been like 2-10 after 12 weeks. All that being said, winning in the NFL is really hard to do, and the Chargers have found a way to win. All the good teams, you could say, change this and they lose. That's what good teams do. They win games. Look at the Chiefs this last week. Extremely ugly game against the Texans. Goes to overtime. They find a way to win. That's what good teams do. And Brandon Staley's Chargers have done that despite the deck being stacked against them. So, I never, even when I'm guilty of this too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to point the fingers and say you were wrong. I'm here to point the finger and say we were all wrong. I never thought he'd get fired, but I definitely was leading the charge of like, hey, maybe this guy isn't as good as we thought last year. And there still are some flaws. This is not to say these 2 wins take away from the flaws and some of the roster building and some of the other decisions that have been made. But at the end of the day, Staley is a lot better than a lot of fans have given him credit for all season. Now he's got to get the job done. He's got 3 easy games. The table is set for them to run the table. I think they're honestly going to win the next 2 and rest their starters in week 18. That's something I predicted before the Titans game over on BoltBeat.com. But the table is set. Now, if they miss the playoffs with everything that's happened the last 2 weeks and these 3 opponents next up, the conversation changes. It changes again. That's the nature of, the football season. But I don't think declaring for him to be fired, like saying like he definitely should be fired now. A lot of fans on Twitter were telling me, yeah, fire Staley now. It was like week 7, whatever it was. Fire him now. Why are you not, why are we letting him play it out? Blah, blah, blah. And my main argument the whole time was, if you fire Brandon Staley in week 7, you're punting on the season. He has his fingertips all over everything. You don't fire a head coach mid-season and then make some like amazing run. Yeah, Rich Bisaccia did it last year, but he was also the assistant head coach and there was extra circumstances to that. With the Staley situation, if they would have fired him, it would have been punting on the season. We wouldn't have had a chance to make the playoffs. And now, those fans back then were saying we didn't have a chance anyways. And now look at the Chargers. So just a reminder, like, yeah, we can change the conversation throughout the course of the season and critique someone, but calling for them to be outright fired and then, yearning over Sean Payton, who the Chargers would have to trade for, pay a lot of money for, and give roster control to, it's just, it never made a lot of sense. And that part of it, at least. And, so big respect to Brandon Staley. I think we all owe him an apology, quite frankly. Brandon Staley, I'm sorry. There were people in the first half of that Cardinals game that were calling for him to be fired, and everything since then, besides an ugly Raiders game, has been great. So heading into this Colts matchup, everything is aligned. Jonathan Taylor's hurt. He's out for the year. So their kind of number one weapon to beat the Chargers is gone. Nick Foles is under center, which I know some people are like worried about because the Nick Foles magic. look, I'm not scared of Nick Foles. He's not a very good quarterback. And historically, he's actually struggled against Brandon Staley and Brandon Staley type defenses. I have this up right now on my computer. Foles has started 3 games against either a Brandon Staley defense or a Vic Fangio defense, who Staley learned from. That was his mentor. In those 3 games, his completion percentage is 55.5%. He's averaging 218 yards a game. He has 0 passing touchdowns with 5 interceptions. So historically, he has been absolutely terrible against this defensive scheme. So I'm not too worried about Nick Foles. I mean, if he burns the Chargers, he burns the Chargers. But historically, history's on our side. So, it's all the stars are aligning. It's indoors. The weather is going to play a huge role in the NFL this weekend, Christmas weekend. And the Chargers aren't going to have to deal with it. Like, there's just a lot aligning for the Chargers. Derwin James returned to practice today, Thursday, the day I'm recording this. So there's a lot of great things, So my betting picks, prop wise, I don't really have a lot. The props aren't up yet, and it's kind of hard to predict what the lines are going to be at. And with this matchup in particular, I don't really have a feel for it like I do other games. I feel like this, in terms of props, that is, like, could go a lot of different ways. Instead, I think this is something where you just hammer the traditional lines. Right now on FanDuel Sportsbook, the Chargers are 4.5-point favorites, and the over-under is at 45.5 points. I'm hammering the Chargers minus 4.5. Yeah, it's in, quote, the Vegas zone. And if the Colts could have a backdoor cover, lose by 4, whatever, I like the Chargers to cover, to win by at least a touchdown. I could see this being a game where they're up. I think I predicted on Bolt Beat they'd be up 16 and the Colts would get a touchdown, but not convert the 2-point conversion and lose by 10. Some weird prediction like that, just trying to be a little bit different with the final score. But I would take Chargers minus 4.5. And I actually kind of like the under 45.5. Arjun over at I probably mispronounced your name, my man. I'm sorry. Over Guilty as Charged. He had a great graph about, quarterbacks EPA versus different coverages, and how Justin Herbert historically hasn't been the best against cover 3 in his career. And Gus Bradley, old Chargers defensive coordinator, loves calling cover 3. That's all he really calls. So we might not see the same explosive Herbert game that we're used to. We might see more of a maintained long drives, maybe more of the running game even. So the Chargers might not have this big offensive explosion. And then on the other side, the defense has been playing really well since the bye week. And, Nick Foles historically struggles against this defensive scheme. So I really like the under 45.5. I would take under team totals for both teams, under passing yards for Nick Foles. If you're going to do props, I would just fade Nick Foles as much as you can. There might be some, added boosts, I should say, to his lines, because people love Nick Foles and people are going to be hammering the over because it's Nick Foles time. I would hammer the under on just about everything except interceptions, which I would hammer the over on. So that's Chargers minus 4.5, under 45.5. Just ride against Nick Foles and the props. That'd be my best advice. And in terms of final score, like I said, I think I predicted it would be 26-16, which is still a pretty high scoring game for the Chargers. That's not a low scoring game. So 26-16, that'd be 42 total points. The Chargers would cover 4.5, and Nick Foles would probably throw 2 picks in there. So bet the Nick Foles interception prop. And if the Chargers can get this done, they're in a great chance. They're in a great spot, I should say. Got a Rams game next week, New Year's Day, SoFi Stadium. Probably going to be out there, me and my buddy. So hope to see you guys there. Go down to Thunder Alley, have some fun. We don't know what time the game's going to be at this point because it's on prime time, but they might flex it, but they have the ability to wait to flex it. I personally think they might flex Patriots Dolphins, but who knows? If the Patriots get blown out this weekend, then maybe that's not going to happen. So until next week, I hope next week we could talk about how the Chargers already clinched the playoffs and everything went as planned. But if not, we'll be talking about this Rams game and, what it could mean, potentially even jumping up to a 5th seed. So that's all I got for you guys this week. Merry Christmas to all those who celebrate. Let's get back to the Charger chat, guys.
Well, there you go, folks. Another awesome bold beat from Mr. Jason Reed. Thank you, sir, for giving us another great insight. I mean, the guy is, if you guys aren't following Bolt Beat on Twitter, you are missing out. The guy tweets up a storm and really has a lot of good insights, a lot of good points that he makes. For better or for worse, he tells it how it is, and we love having him here on the Charger Chat podcast. So, Jason, thank you again for another kick-ass Bolt Beat. And now, folks, that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. But before we go, we have to make some Bolt predictions. Yeah. Normally, I would give it to Kyle here first, but I want to first give it to Kev, who texted us here just last second to get his bold prediction in.
Sitting on his porcelain throne.
Yeah, he probably had his cheek on the toilet. He's holding his phone up and he's messaging it as he's writing it. But Kevin's bold prediction: pretty big blowout, 41-9.
Pretty aggressive there, Kev.
41-9 Chargers, and Herbert. I don't know if I understand this part of it. He says Herbert 4 touchdowns. With all the Pro Bowl disrespect, he gets 3 touchdowns.
Is that Eckler? Eckler gets 3 touchdowns.
Oh, Herbert gets 4 and Eckler gets 3
with 3 of them. Yeah, like
that would be pretty
maybe?
wild. Yeah, wow. Yeah. 3 touchdowns for Eckler. Well, we saw that in, what was it, week 3, week 4, that he came in.
Oh, yeah, he busted out finally.
Yeah, he had like 3 touchdowns in the game, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. So
not as psychotic as the 41-9 call, but I'll double down on that, and I'll go with my usual 45-10 because that's my go-to now. I'm going back to the Fehoko sack dance prediction because I just got to get it. We got to have it. Come on,
it has to happen, especially now with the talk of who I can't remember. Oh, Gaziano. With Gaziano going down.
Yeah.
Fehoko is going to be in a lot of snaps, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him to get back there and get Matt Ryan. So
it's time.
Please, 2022, we're almost out of it, Fehoko. I want a sack dance, please.
Merry Christmas. Also, he did a fun video on YouTube with Chris Rump building gingerbread houses.
Hilarious. I saw that it's there. I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
It's good. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Okay. It looks right up our alley.
Yeah.
All right. Well, bold prediction from me. I'm going to go because again, this really should be, I know I want it to be a blowout game. I know we don't always get what we want, but I want this to be a blowout game as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, I'm going to say 38-6.
38-6. Let's freaking go.
Yeah. I'm going to say 38-6. And I'm going to say, this guy has been playing so well for us lately. Especially after we lost JC Jackson. I think Mike Davis is due for an interception. And in fact, not just an interception, pick 6. Pick 6, Mike Davis.
Touchdown defense. I like it.
Yeah. This guy's due. Vato, get it done. Make it happen. All right, love folks. There you go. Bold predictions in the books. And that's going to do it for this another short episode of Charger Chat. We like it short and sweet here sometimes, and that is A-okay, especially for the Friday episode. So,
and especially when we got to record it twice.
And we got to do it twice. Damn it, I will never forget myself for that. All right. Don't forget to bolt up, folks, because we're ready for any squad, any place.
You started your outro, and I almost forgot what I had to say because Kevin wasn't before me. Okay, love you, bye.
Okay, love you, bye.